I think before you proceed, since you opened with Real ID, I think perhaps, and I don't believe it's on our agenda today, I think we should probably see if members have questions regarding Real ID for you right now. I guess we're all concerned about the rollout. As we all remember, our last experience with a system rollout was less than pleasant, and we're still waiting to get to where we thought we were going to be over a year ago. And while we're very pleased that you're making progress with these releases, improving this MNLARS system and making it work better, it's all too late, frankly. We've delayed this well beyond any reasonable date, and I don't think we should forget that. We're happy with your work. We're glad you're working on it, but this has taken too long, and it's very frustrating. Members, I just wanted to open this up. If you have any questions about Real ID, since it was not on the agenda, we have a non-member question from our guest, Representative Rick Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. Commissioner Clyburn, my question's on Real ID, on what the proposed transfer effect would be if we authorize, I'm using we here broadly, but if the transfer for the second year of the contract for Real ID goes through that $5 million, what does that mean for Real ID implementation in the out years? So beyond October 1, but going into the next, what are the consequences for Real ID, for transferring the Real ID money into keeping MNLARS updates going?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, Representative Hansen, I think we're confusing two issues. The rider transfer that I'm asking for is within the fund technology costs within the purview of this commission. The restructuring of the $5.5 million would delay the phase 2 portion of the Real ID project, which is systems enhancements, some maintenance stuff, some back-end stuff that would not affect some interactions with some court systems, those types of things that are not part of the current phase 1. It would not affect the rollout of Real ID or the ability of our citizens to get a Real ID compliant card.
A follow-up, Representative Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that I was asking about the second part with the phase 2. What does that mean for Minnesotans on a practical level? And then what does it mean in terms of cost if we have to restructure that and at some point go to phase 2? Will that have to be rebid? Well, there's an additional, likely the cost goes up. I'm looking for the practical impact of delaying phase 2 and what that means in terms of for a future legislature having to deal with that cost.
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, Representative Hansen, it means in the next budgeting request, there will need to be an allocation for 5.5 in order for phase 2 to occur in the Real ID. I do not presume to speak for the legislature, so I don't know where they are going to go, nor do I know what a new governor chooses to recommend within their purview. I do know that that will be a request, and I'm committed to asking for those funds. But I'm stuck in a rock and a hard place. Either shut a system down right now that is causing and has caused our citizens pain, or restructure the funds that I have available right now in order to ensure I can meet the obligations that I have due right now, and beg basically the legislature and the incoming governor to allow a 5.5 for phase 2 in the new year.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Before I go to Representative Baker, I would like you to describe the impact on deputy registrars of the Real ID rollout.
Do you want to take that, or should I, Dana?
Workload, reimbursement, those sorts of issues.
Dana take that?
I don't think it's really on. Is it on our agenda later? I don't see it.
Yeah. So Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Cassandra O'Hearn. The reason I'm struggling was with the scope of the question as far as the impact. So driver's license agents have been required by statute to undergo background checks in order to have the capability of issuing Real ID and enhanced driver's license. That is an,
That's on our agenda. We'll talk about that
okay, but that
issue
is an
later.
impact to them. They're-
I understand.
Right, and the training needs have been an impact to them as well. So as far as, and I know that many deputies are here and will probably provide additional impacts and as well. There is a pre-application process that has been built by Fast Enterprises so that an individual can complete most of their driver's application before they ever get to a deputy registrar. That will reduce the amount of data input because that will already be in the system. So when the individual comes in with their pre-application confirmation, they will be able, the driver's license agent will be able to enter that, pull up that pre-application that will have all the information already inputted, except for some clicks. We saw a demonstration at last week's MDRA conference. And so most things are either, clicks or yes or no checkbox moving through the system if somebody completes that pre-application process.
And what sort of revenue do the deputy registrars receive for the work on Real ID applications?
The same that that they receive for any other type of driver's license. The fees are all identified in statute, but there isn't a different fee for their work as a result of Real ID or enhanced or a standard driver's license.
Thank you. Representative Baker has a question.
Mr. Chair and members, and Commissioner, I think, as mentioned earlier, I think we all have a bit of anticipation for Monday. We think it's going to be better than it was, but we still have a lot of heartburn not knowing the what if. So what if things don't go as well as we hope? And the deputy registers, like they did with MNLARS, were kind of sending letters and screaming to say, whoa, 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 wait a minute here. And I think from my standpoint in my district and what I'm hearing around the state, the deputy registers are the ears on the ground. They know better what's working and what is not. Is there a ramp off that you have? If there has to be a timeout, what is the plan with this? Because we never were allowed that with the MNLARS rollout. It just kept going. The e-support system was basically shut down right away, and we couldn't go back. And I'm not even saying we're going back to anything because this is different. But what is the plan of the what if? And I'm hoping to make sure that if, is there a mechanism, is it the Executive Steering Committee that has been meeting to say they have the ability to raise the flag to say, stop this for a minute, we got to relook at this. What is the plan there, Commissioner, with the what if something from the deputy registers are saying this is a red light?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, Representative Baker, excellent questions. So unlike MNLARS, there's a rollback plan. There is what I call battle drills, if this, then that. There is a process flow of what to do in the event that we receive any calls. On Sunday, we have 2 deputy registers who will give us the thumbs up that we're ready to go live on Monday morning. There's an entire team that will be processing transactions through each of the data conversions on Saturday and Sunday. It will be a long weekend for all of our staff. Come Monday when we go live, assuming everything goes well and we have the go live vote on Sunday, and right now I'm not seeing any indication that we would not be going live. If there are any issues, we have the ability to roll back. So the first 3 days of operation are very telling to us, and we are able to triage in the field deputies will be able to call in if there are any problems. They've already been briefed on the triage process. There is a weekly ESC meeting that has been meeting. There's comms that are going back and forth. Additionally, with the rollback process, we also are monitoring various what we call indicators. Things like how long is it taking within the office to process? How long are the transactions? Are there any spikes in the demand on the system? Those types of things. The Fast Enterprises has folks standing by and an entire army waiting in case something goes wrong. We have DPS and minutes staff that are poised to go out wherever we need them to within the state. We have regional areas where, unlike MNLARS, where if there was an issue, we had to send someone from St. Paul to Bemidji, we now have people within region areas that will be able to respond and assist within each of those areas. Nothing goes 100%, but I feel like we are in, and feelings are, we need words and actions, right? I feel like we are in 1,000 degree difference of where we were with MNLARS in July of last year.
Thank you.
Senator Jasinski, sorry about that.
Thank you, Chair Turkles. So kind of a technical question. I stopped in one of my deputy registrar's offices, and when you get a new driver's license, now you get a 2-page, and I'm sorry I was going to bring it today, but I forgot, a 2-page form. One is a yellow, one is a white. You fill it out. The deputy register goes through. They give you the yellow copy. You take your license. To my understanding, those forms are going to go away, and the deputy registers are now going to have to print those forms on their own, or some type of a receipt or some type of a page after that. So my concern is we've already put stress on our deputy registers. They're doing more input work, and now we're making them pay for the paper, the toner, the cartridges, all those things that they were not paying for. And I just want to make sure that's correct. 'Cause I mean, we're killing these deputy registers, and we keep putting more work on them and more costs, and they get paid the same transaction fee, and that's my concern.
Commissioner. Or Ms. Holder.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I think I can respond to this, and if not, Don Olson will come and correct me. But my understanding is there are 2 different ways with respect to that form. One is that pre-application that I just spoke about, and hopefully that will be widely communicated. And a lot of work can be done by the customer before they ever come in, and it works on mobile devices and all of that. But with respect to walking out the door with a receipt, whether you do the pre-application or you come forward and the information is provided to the deputy to enter that data, it is true that they do need to print that receipt. That receipt is different in the Fast Driver Services system because it contains a photo image on it. So that receipt, if you recall that yellow slip that you get, right, and you need to fold it all up and keep it, but it does not have your picture on it. So its usefulness is limited, but now you will have all the information on that receipt. But it is true that the deputy will need to print that out.
And again, Mr. Chair, that is my concern. We keep putting more and more pressure on these deputy registers, toner cartridges, paper, all these things, printers that they're not having to do now, and we keep pushing more and more pressure on them. We tried to get them funded some relief last year. That didn't work. They're struggling, and we keep putting more pressure on them, and we cannot do that. We have to stop. These small businesses are going to go under. We have 174 offices. They're going to start going under when we keep making them do these things. It drives me crazy, and I'm sure there's more and more people upset about it, but we have to stop putting the pressure on these deputy registers like this. To take away these forms and make them absorb that cost is just one more stake in the or dagger in the coffin that we cannot do. I'm very concerned about it.
A follow-up to his remarks. Does this affect all driver's license applications or just Real ID applications?
Mr. Chair, members, this affects all driver's license applications and identification cards.
So the FAST, we hired FAST to do more than Real ID, apparently.
Mr. Chair, members, yes, that has always been that FAST is building and has built and will be rolling out the entire driver services system. That includes regular, standard driver's license, enhanced driver's license, and Real ID.
Well, thank you for that. I apologize for my own misremembering that, but this will have a fairly significant impact on these offices. And it comes to my mind that not everyone is as comfortable with technology as some people are, and this pre-application process, while it may be very handy and easily adopted by a percentage of our people that are seeking driver's licenses, there certainly are those who do not have access to or are not comfortable with this technology. And so describe for me what happens if you don't do the pre-application. What does the deputy registrar have to do for those people?
The deputy registrar is going to have to input the information from the application into the system. My understanding is that is what they've had to do currently anyway. So you complete that paper application form, but the deputy registrar had to get that information into the system. So the driver services, fast driver services system, that same process occurs. So it happens, it's just if somebody uses the pre-app, it's already there. If it's not and they complete the information, they get that directly from the customer and they input that information.
Well, thank you for that, but certainly there's more information required for a real ID than a regular driver's license. Is that not the case?
There is more documents that need to be reviewed, but not necessarily additional information. So a deputy registrar, a standard driver's license, you have not had to show proof of your residence. You just wrote down, this is my address, and that was the address that was given to you. With a real identification, there are different requirements for the documents that need to be reviewed, including 2 types of documentation to prove your residence. That is new information that the customer has to bring, and the driver's license agents have been trained to accept information, to review it, make sure it's the right type of information, but they're not entering that information into the system. They are accepting it, they are reviewing it to ensure it is accurate documentation.
So there's no scanning of that information, it's just somebody looks at it, verifies it, and then they go on with the procedure? Is that the way it's going to work?
So at this time, the same process as has occurred in the legacy system is that that information will be provided and sent to DVS as they do today. There's a pilot program around scanning because many of the deputy offices have raised concerns about not wanting to maintain and hold on to these records and being responsible for the security of them. So there is scanning capability that is being at their request and with the work of the Executive Steering Committee. And there are some offices that are going to test out a scanning function because then they could scan that information and they would then not have to maintain copies in their offices. But at this time, that is not a statewide and is being rolled out with the deputies.
So allow me to backtrack. So if someone comes in for a real ID, the other difference between real ID and a regular driver's license is that they have to submit these documents and the deputy registrar has to file them if they can't scan them. Is that correct?
My understanding is that with standard driver's licenses and with EDLs, that is currently what happens. Yeah,
So
Now.
they're doing that now?
they're doing that
If I
now.
come in to renew my regular driver's license, I have to bring proof of residence and they have to file it?
You do not need to bring proof of residence today, but if you decided to change your name, for instance, or the other documentation, the identity documentation. So for a person who just passes their driver's test, they need to bring in various different documents to prove their identity today. Those information is copied by the deputy today and submitted to DVS today. They mail them. That is the process that has happened in the current system and will continue into the new system as well.
Well, we spent already much more time on this than we had allocated for today. We trust that you are sensitive not only to the needs of our citizens and their efforts to get these real IDs, but also sensitive to the needs of our deputy registrars. We have another guest legislator here today. Senator Cornyn, you have a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for allowing a non-member to ask the question as well. So you did a great job of describing, and it gets around to the impacts of the deputy registers and the process. Did a great job of describing what it will be. Can you please describe to us the additional time impact and labor resource impact on the deputy registers? Can you tell us what a driver's license renewal process looks like today under the current process, and then what's the current testing and also the length, the forecasted length to process the 3 new transactions under the new system, the existing driver's license, the enhanced, as well as the real ID.
Mr.
In
Chair?
30 seconds or less.
Okay, in 30,
Sorry.
In 30 seconds or less, I can respond that I do not believe that we have specific information about how long these transactions occur. What I can tell you is the FAST system does track that information, and they will be tracking it from the time that somebody starts working on the on an application until the end. And we are going to be looking and reviewing that data real time, and FAST and DVS are going to use that information in case there are offices that are outside of kind of the norm as a way to go and help them. Once people get used to the system, because there will be some, it's new, the screens look differently, but once people look at the system, the belief is that I believe the transactions will happen as quickly as they do for a standard. A real ID may take a little longer because that's an additional documentation, and an enhanced driver's license takes longer because there is a requirement for an interview as part of the enhanced driver's license process. So I know I didn't answer to your specifics. We can get additional information.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But you just described very lengthy process, and that we don't know exactly what it is today is unacceptable. You know what the process is today. We're going to roll this out, and we can't even forecast to our deputy registers the exact time frame. They don't make payroll decisions and staffing on beliefs. We are obligated to provide what the impacts to them are, and we should have that before it's rolled out. We can't hope it gets better. We should absolutely know what it is. So I would hope you would get that information extremely fast to the deputy registers so they can plan. These are impactful to them. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Newman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a real quick comment on a follow-up on what Senator Jasinski was talking about is, one of my fears has always been is that as a result of this very expensive new MNLARS program, we are simply looking at one aspect of the cost. And Senator Jasinski's concerns with respect to the registrars, I fully expect that we will have in the very near future registrars coming in and asking for a fee increase because of the additional workload that has been placed on them, and it's probably going to be a reasonable request. And it's going to be as a direct result of what is occurring with the MNLARS situation that's been going on for a number of years now. And so I really expect that we legislators are just seeing the tip of the iceberg as to what the cost of this ultimately is going to be, and it isn't going to be just the cost of the MNLARS program. We started this session or this segment talking about FAST and the real ID. So my question, Commissioner Clyburn, I'd like to go back to that. I will tell you that I am personally not in favor of rating the FAST account to the tune of $5.5 million. There are some legislators that are very concerned about the fact that you're taking that money away from a program that we've now paid for, and you're going to use it to pay for a portion of a different program that, quite frankly, we did appropriate money for, but the governor vetoed it. And so it feels to me a little bit like you are exercising a veto override by taking money out of FAST and applying it to MNLARS. My question is, I assume that you have talked to Governor Dayton about this proposal of taking the $5.5 million. Is that, am I correct that you have talked to him about it?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, Senator Newman, yes, I did.
And what is Governor Dayton's feelings, and what did he tell you about this, given the fact that he vetoed the money that was to be spent on MNLARS?
Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, Senator Newman, that was not part of the discussion. The money was allocated for MNLARS. Real ID was part of the original MNLARS umbrella. And so when I looked at how to manage the system, the concern became is I had two options. I had an option to try and figure out how I can continue to provide relief to the deputy registers in the field, or, because there's this thing called anti-deficiency, which means I cannot obligate against funds I do not have, I could shut down the entire system and ramp it down now, which means we will be sitting still until the next legislative session. Neither of those options really were great. And so I took the better of the two options, which is the funds within a project that have not started yet, in order to provide the 1.14 and 1.15 releases that the deputy registers have told us repeatedly in the stakeholder engagements that they're high priority. So we listen to them in order to try and figure out how to get as much relief to them as possible.
Commissioner, I don't dispute that you are faced with a Hobson's choice here, and you are in fact between a rock and a hard place. The point of my question is that the legislature did appropriate the money that you're looking for, and the governor vetoed it. And we also appropriated money for Real ID, and now you're taking money from one pot, and it really does feel to me like you are overriding the governor's veto. That was his choice. And all of the problems of shutting down this program were present when he vetoed the MNLARS funding. And that was his choice. And so I just, I just want you to understand that I do not agree with, even though it's a difficult choice, and believe me, I do understand the rock and the hard place that you're behind. But that doesn't take away from the fact that immediately upon you taking $5.5 million away from FAST, we know that you're going to come back or your agency is going to come back to the legislature next session and say, hey, we need $5.5 million for FAST because we are now short. Mm-hmm. And, I just don't agree with the shifting of the money. I don't agree with the shifting of this money any more than I agreed with shifting money out of HUTDF in order to pay for the call centers. And I now see the state agency doing the same thing again, and in the For What It's Worth department, I don't agree.
Senator Dibble.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to respond to the statement by Chair Newman that it was the governor's choice to veto the funding for MNLARS. It was. That is true. But it was also, I'd say the legislature has some responsibility for that veto because the governor was very clear the circumstances under which he would veto that appropriation, given its source and given the other policy elements that were attached to it, and the other atmospherics and the other things that was embedded with. So the legislature, when they chose to provide that funding and put that package on the governor's desk in the form that they did, already had all the information they needed to know that that would draw his veto, and he vetoed that legislation as he had assured that he would. So it was everyone's choice.
Well, thank you for that, Senator Dibble. I'd also like to remind everyone that he vetoed a single-item bill, too, that would have provided some relief for our deputy registrars because apparently it was too simple for him.
Mr. Chair, he was also very clear that the source of those funds were unacceptable, and they have simply done more harm to the agency's larger mission and efforts to rectify the problems with MNLARS. He communicated that clearly ahead of time as well.
Well, this is not listed as a debate today, so we'll leave it there, Senator.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make
Let's-
sure that we're clear on
Okay.
one point. So the funds that are being reallocated are in the same money. It's the same pot of money. It's not, I just want to make clear.
Wait
it's
a
the
minute,
same-
Commissioner, which funds are we talking about now?
The 5.5. And so I just want to make sure that it's not a shifting from one account to another. It is the money that was allocated as part of MNLARS. So I'm not moving money around. I'm choosing where I'm spending that money.
Yes, but by spending that money, you will be unable to fulfill the FAST contract.
Phase 2 of the phase contract, Mr. Chair.
That's, yeah, it's all the same contract. It may have phases, but it is a contract.
It is.
A contract which, don't get me started. Let's move on.